In front of us is a chronograph from a company called Nivada Grenchen. There is no doubt that this is a very good looking watch. But is it just good looks, or is there substance behind it? In today's video, we're going to review it and try to answer that very question. Nivada Grenchen has a rich history in watchmaking. They were making watches all the way from 1926 up until late 1970s. In late 1970s, unfortunately, quartz crisis weren't too friendly to them and they had to shut down shop. In 2018, they came back and started reissuing some of their more iconic models, including the model that we have in front of us, the Chronomaster. Here's the thing. My friend Chris and I have been discussing Nivada Grenchen watches over coffee many times. At various points, we were this close to pulling a trigger on one of their models. Chris actually did buy one of their models, but that's a topic for another video. So when Nivada Grenchen reached out to me and offered to send any watch I choose for review, I already knew exactly which watch I wanted to take a look at. It's this Orange Boy SL manual wind chrono. I'm not kidding. The name of this chronograph is Orange Boy, which is a bit strange. So first let's go over some basic specs. The watch has a diameter of 38.3 millimeters. However, bezel does overhang a bit, so the true diameter is about 39 millimeters. It's about 46 millimeters from one lug to another, a lug opening of 20 millimeters, and it's about 13.5 millimeters thick, including that boxed and domed sapphire crystal. The case is made out of stainless steel. The crystal is sapphire with AR coating. The water resistance is 100 meters. It is powered by the Sellita SW510 manual wind movement, and it has a price of $1,735 US. Since it's a reissue of a chronograph from 1960s, it has a very similar case architecture to those vintage models. Somewhat thin lugs with the sharp angles, alternating satin and polished finishes, and the feature that I personally love are drilled lug holes. I wish all vintage reissue watches had drilled lug holes. The finishes on the case are fantastic. It's exactly what you would expect for a watch in around $2,000 price category. We have pump style pushers that can be found at the 2 and the 4 o'clock position. The pusher at the 2 o'clock position, that's to start the chronograph. The pusher at the 4 o'clock, well, that's to reset the chronograph. Both pushers have great mechanical feel. They're firm and satisfying to click. Sellita SW510 is generally a solid movement. It's reliable movement, easy to service, and fairly accurate. We find a signed crown at the 3 o'clock position. It's not a screw down crown, although the watch still has 100 meters of water resistance. This level of water resistance is what made Nivada Grenchen so special in 1960s. This was your iPhone. This watch had so many different timing features that were kind of unheard of in one piece back then. Like for example, you had a diver style bezel. It's a bidirectional bezel that's friction resistant, so it doesn't have any clicks. The bezel action is pretty good, although one of the negatives for friction based bezels is that if you were to wear this watch and knock it against a table or something like that, there's a high chance that the bezel will turn and mess up your timing measurement. The bezel insert is made out of aluminum, and besides diver timing scale on the bezel, you will also find a 12-hour timing scale, which adds another timing function to the watch. On the dial, various timing features continue. There is a tachymeter scale all the way on the outer edges of the bezel, as well as the orange chronograph seconds hand, a chronograph minutes subdial by the 3 o'clock position, and the regular seconds for the main timekeeping, that's a subdial by the 9 o'clock position. I love that pop of orange color on the chrono minutes subdial. It's there to highlight the first 5 minutes elapsed on the chronograph function. There are applied hour indices in a faux patina. There's also the same color faux patina that is on the set of hands. Here's the loom shot for your reference. The loom is alright, it's not overly impressive, but this is a chronograph watch, so we're not really expecting too much. Nivada logo by the 12 o'clock position, and the word Swiss by the 6 o'clock position. Back in the day, these watches used to have a letter T printed by the 6 o'clock position on the dial to indicate tritium dial. Well, of course, nowadays we're not using tritium dials. However, what Nivada Grenchen did here, they put a letter L on the dial to indicate a luminova dial, which is a nice throwback. Because the crystal is both domed and boxed, you get some great distortion angles. You also get this cool 3D effect to the dial. Because the tachymeter scale is positioned perfectly on the edge of the crystal, it makes it seem as if it's raised above the dial and thus making the dial look more three-dimensional. I'm not really sure if this effect will translate well on the video. I hope it does. This watch is available with both automatic and manual wind chronograph movements. Since I have the manual wind version of this chrono, it's a bit thinner than the automatic one, which means it sits more comfortably on the wrist. On my 7¼ inch wrist, the watch feels right at home. I think it can easily accommodate people with smaller wrists. Not sure about people with much larger wrists. If you have a wrist of over 8 inches in circumference, the watch might look a bit undersized for you. Maybe look at other alternatives. Primarily, I wore this watch on the supplied leather strap. The leather strap is excellent, it's nice and soft, hugs the wrist really well, it also has quick release pins. The hardware is alright, it's your standard tank buckle that has a double finish of satin as well as some polished accents and a small Nivada Grenchen logo. Having this watch on my wrist was very comfortable, partially due to the case size and partially due to the overall design. Sometimes watches that have pump style chrono pushers can dig into your wrist. Happy to say that's not the case with this one. I really have no complaints about overall comfort and fit on the wrist. For my size of wrist, it just works. In summary, I quite like this watch. Although I'm a sucker for a vintage inspired chronograph, I love these things, I love how they look, and I think Nivada Grenchen overall accomplished the goal that they set out to accomplish with this timepiece. Create something that looks great, functions well, and has that vintage callback to the models of the past. As far as the negatives go, I have really two suggestions. Number one, it would be cool to see a display caseback on this watch. As it is right now, it's a solid screw down caseback. I think chronograph movements look really cool, so why not display it and let everybody enjoy that movement. The second suggestion that I have is to reduce the price by about $200. I think $1,735, it's not outrageous, but at $1,500, I think this watch would be killer and a no-brainer recommendation. But what do you guys think? Leave your comments in the comment section below. We always enjoy reading them. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We release new videos every week. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!